What is good?
What is good?
What is good?
What is good? I'm so happy to be here.
I missed you.
Yeah.
I missed you a lot, beautiful people.
I did too.
Listen,
I really did.
It has been a minute.
It has.
But you know, it was a good minute. Mm-hmm. It was a necessary minute.
Yes.
And I'll say that because I was telling Jessica, when I orchestrate and start to feel new things that God is putting in our spirit, and we're starting to change in new ways and go in new environments, right? Then you have to allow yourself the ability to adjust to that new thing and accommodate it. For me, I am a creative person, so to love on whatever it is that I'm doing and to understand it so that I could flow with it and then introduce it into the realm of already the other things that I have going on. That's when things can actually take off and do well.
Yeah.
And because they're already in a flow of other things that are already flowing, but I can't allow longevity of one thing unless I actually give my time to it and understand it first. And so that was really, really good for me to do, to be able to level up, because we're doing a lot of amazing things with our business, with people, with amazing creative other like-minded individuals. And now it is time to go to a new level in, you know, just what we can do and what we want to do, you know, and the places we want to go all over the world, reaching new people in new areas and content and creative aspects. And so to do that, I was like, you know, it has to be serious and that the flow is there.
Yeah.
And for me, it's always necessary that, you know, my relationship with God that's the first thing. And then my relationship with my husband, like those things always, they're so good that they keep getting better and better and better. And then my relationship with me and Jessica. Yeah. So it's like, it's completely this amazing vertical and horizontal relationship that keeps getting better and better. And then with my family and aspects like that. So then when I'm pulling in other things, it just gets better. Yeah. But got to adjust to it.
Yeah.
You got to give yourself that room.
Because anything that we do, anything that we put our time to, we want to make sure that it is the best. We want to make sure whatever we are putting work into, that literally what you're seeing is, you know, a finished product. It's all of our efforts are going into it. So just taking that time and focusing on certain areas and then coming back and saying, okay, now we can give this our full attention. Yeah. It truly is amazing.
It is. Yeah. And for me, I feel as though I like things to be a good product, but then I also like them to be raw, so that it's just because I'm just me all the time, every day. I wear every single chain. Just kidding. But I really am just me, period. Yeah. So I want to always exhibit that on any content that I put forward. I'm not going to be anything other than that. And so that's what... Yeah. So it's good. Yes. So it's been fun. Now the weather is going into some of my favorite weather. It is, we had some cold days randomly happen. Yeah. And that was really nice. It was so nice to walk out and wear a sweater. I was so excited about that. I was committed. I was like, no, I need to go outside. Yeah. Maybe put on some Christmas music now too, because it's cold.
She's one of those. She starts early.
No, you started too.
Not this early.
I haven't started this early either yet, but you have changed.
But not necessarily. So I have started early, but it more starts like after Thanksgiving for me.
No, you've started earlier than that. You even recently told me that. You're like, yeah, we should put on some Christmas music.
But I never actually did.
But call yourself out that you said that.
Okay, I can call myself out. But I haven't yet.
It was a slow time. But... but it's been nice. It's getting nicer outside. And, you know, I just, before we begin, I just want to tell you, you know, you have to acknowledge what's going on everywhere, to be aware. But I want you to know that when you come here, you will be able to come to a platform that it's always going to be aware of everything else that is going on, taking into that consideration, but being very mindful of living while you're here,
Yeah.
living intentionally, that it's not about getting wrapped up in what's going on in every single aspect of the world, but it's also about allowing yourself the time to, yes, look at it, understand it, educate yourself on it, but then also make sure that in your own life, you are taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
That's very, very important. What are you going to do for your days and in your home and in your life, and how you're going to set yourself up for success? So don't lose out on getting so involved in other things and other people and other places, and just giving your mind to all these other distractions that you lose what you are here on earth to do.
Yeah.
Because time is going to keep going, whether or not this is happening, that is happening, who's doing what, who's in office or who's not in office, how your workplace is or how your workplace isn't, if your boss is nice or isn't nice, if there's someone on social media that has a new house or someone that doesn't, if there's someone that has a new car or doesn't have a new car.
Yeah.
All these things are going to keep occurring. But the thing is that if you give yourself to those things as they are your monumentals, they're your every day, you give yourself to that, and you're just invested in looking at that, then you become second place in all of those things, and all your dreams and aspirations and creative aspects and content that is supposed to come from you doesn't get to happen. So I just want you to know not to prolong what you are on earth to do.
Yeah.
When you look at history, some of the best, amazing, incredible minds, the reason why they're amazing is because during all chaos, they still pursued. They still continued in the midst of, not after the midst, not when the fog went away.
Yeah.
They still pressed through during the fog.
Yeah.
They kept walking, even when they couldn't see as well, through the dark. They kept going till they got to their freedom.
Yeah.
And that's how you get to the light, is by walking through the dark. So when you see darkness surrounding you and you're frustrated by everything, the last thing to do is stop. Don't stop. Keep moving. One foot, the next foot, the next foot, the next foot.
Yeah.
And every day, just taking that consistency and going, what can I do a little bit better for myself today? How can I get a little bit further today? You know? And so I just want you to make sure you do that.
Yeah. Stay encouraged.
Yeah. Stay encouraged.
Yeah.
So, and that actually goes into our topic today, which is about regrets. I've been seeing that regrets is something that has been a topic in our clientele.
Yeah.
Very, very strongly this year. It was sprinkled around last year, but this year I think regret has become a very in the face kind of aspect. And I think because it's like what I told Jessica, what I like to call it is the ghost of Christmas past. Y'all remember Ebenezer? Okay?
Yep.
If you don't, Scrooge.
Yeah.
Scrooge, Ebenezer Scrooge. And the story of Scrooge, honestly, is a powerful one.
It
because
is.
Not only because of, you know, his life and everything that happened, the trajectory of therein, it really explains a lot about him when you go back to his childhood. But what I love is that Scrooge was given the time. He was given the time to reflect on what he did and didn't do, on how he behaved and didn't behave, on the things in which he should have done better on and didn't choose to do better on. He was given the time to reflect on that. And, you know, oftentimes we look at Scrooge and we're like, this old man, he was so mean. But the truth is that there was things that shaped Scrooge as to becoming that way.
Yeah.
So, but my point is that today's world and all the different things that have taken place this year, people can look at it and they can start to reflect on all these lists of regrets that they have, you know. But I want you to shift your thought and go, instead of just looking at them and going, gosh, I have so many regrets, looking at it as, wow, I have the opportunity to reflect on these things so that I can't undo what I did, but I can go forward now in a better way.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's the power of Ebenezer's story, is after the ghosts of Christmas past, after they all visited him and told him, even his close friend, what he did to him and how hurt they were from him, he was able to make a choice that moment when he woke up the next day to either maintain his character as he was on earth thus far and continue on the way he was, or to wake up and to be renewed in his mind and go, hold up. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm not going to act like this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to keep treating people the way I've been treating them anymore. And so I think that this year, deciding that there's a lot of things that you did that weren't cool, right? You hurt people, it wasn't cool, it hurt them. But now, what can you do the next step? To apologize, to now go forward and to live in a new way. And so I think that that's one of the powerful things about regret, that it doesn't try to show you. Regret just tries to show you all these horrible things.
To live in that very moment, to stay there.
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying is so powerful, because there's a next step.
Yeah.
So many times we're in this dark place and, oh, I wish I could have done this. I wish I wish type of place.
And that's all you see.
And that's all you see. And you don't go forward. And so you reach different ages, reach different milestones in your life, but you're still kind of in the past. You're still in the same place because you have not yet took that next step. You have not said, you know what? No, this is done. I'm going to change this. And so I think that's so important, where, like you said, regret does not show you that. It just shows you, you're embarrassed. You need to be in the same place. You need to keep dwelling on it. So
yeah, so that's what we're going to today. We're going to talk about regrets and the different levels in which regret can come at you, and how it can try to shape itself and tell you different things that it's not actually true.
Yeah.
Okay. So for instance, I had a client who told me that she had a laundry list, literally a laundry list of regrets. And so, when that happened, I'm like, let's list them out. They're like, what? So, we started with this list, and when we first start off, two of the things on her list were my son not getting into college was one of her regrets, as well as my husband divorcing me. So I sit down and I look at that and I go, okay, what do those regrets have to do with you? And so she's looking at me very confused, and she goes, well, if my son had gotten to college, he would have a better job. And then she's like, if the divorce, if we didn't get a divorce, we have set such a bad example for the kids. And now they might think divorce is an option for their lives, And so all her regrets, as we started to look at them, were someone else's choices. Her son chose not to go to college. And so she's saying, oh, well, it's her fault that he didn't go to college. No, it's not.
Yeah.
At the age of, as we talked in our episode that you guys can look at, reparenting oneself, in that time in which you're 18 years old, you are in control of your own actions as to if you're going to go to college or not go to college. You don't have to do any of the following, but it's your own personal decision. So when I asked her what she had to do with these things, she started to put back what she didn't know was nothing to do with herself.
Yeah.
Wow. And the thing about her husband too, they had gone to counseling. So I asked her, I said, well, what does you getting a divorce have to do with you? I want to understand that, Well, we went to counseling, we went to retreats, we did all these different things to invest in our marriage, and still he was unhappy. But that unhappiness, yet again, did not have to do with her. It had to do with her husband specifically at the time and where he was. So yet again, her regret of being regretful for the divorce, which she did not want, was not her fault.
Yeah.
So I think that at the end of the day, you have to realize, first off, when you're regretful and you're regretful for another person's life, you have to ask yourself what involvement you have in that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because it was actually clear as we went through the list too, that her son actually didn't even want to go to college. So why be regretful for something that her son didn't actually want to do? And as we went further, her husband actually decided that he just didn't even want to be married anymore.
Yeah.
So what does that have to do with her? And as we went further, we found out that he actually did not blame her. He actually just had come to a new place in his personal decision. So the thing that remains is that we have free will. We have choices.
Yeah.
And when someone makes a choice, it does not mean that you are now supposed to take their choice on yourself as your shame, as your embarrassment, as your failure. Because they did not want to do something. It doesn't mean that you take that burden on yourself. So starting to relieve yourself of things that aren't even yours to carry is so necessary.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And, you know, the things that you made, the choices that you made that weren't for you, or choices that you made that were for you, that was at the time where you were. It's not where you are today. You know, so you have to let yourself go from that too.
I love that. I think that's so key too with what you said, is relieving that, because so many times people hold on to so much, and you know, they're really, and that's the thing too, I think also with condemnation and stuff like that comes because you think it's you know, and you start beating yourself up, and you start, you know, really attacking yourself in this horrible way, when you really look down the line, like you said with the client, and start to see it had nothing to do with her. You know, it was, you know, other people's personal decisions that led to the outcome. And I think that's so important, because sometimes we get so tunnel vision on something, you know, oh, it was me, I did, you know, and we beat ourselves up, but in reality, it had nothing to do with, you know, yourself.
Yeah. And some of these things can actually be the spirit of condemnation that get passed down from certain things that you attributed that you may not even know were from when you were younger. So maybe you're an eldest child, you are the eldest child, and you constantly were trying to make sure that everything was good in your home. You were always trying to be the one that, you know, took care of things or made sure things were good. And you might have had to even take care of the household in the instance of even making sure food was on the table, because your parents weren't in a place mentally where they could, or maybe they, you know, you suffered from a situation where you came from a parent that was an alcoholic. So you were constantly trying to tend to your younger siblings and take care of them. And if something went wrong, you assumed the blame for that. Or your parent, because they were under the I would just call it just a hardship, and when they were just even under having been drunk, you know, then they would say certain things to you like it's your fault, and and tell you that you were to blame. So when you then started to personalize that and to take that on, instead of saying, no, it's not my fault, you allowed it to kind of become you. And so whenever something goes wrong, now that you're an adult and you're married, or you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, you know, and you find that when something goes wrong, you instantly blame yourself, even when it's nothing to do with you at all. Or if you're even in a friendship and something happens where, you know, you're like, I wish I would have done this. Oh no, it's my fault. You blame yourself. Even if it's the other way around, you will try to take on the hurt or the blame for something that you aren't to blame with, or even in work, you know. And this is the same thing with students too. You can be in a group assignment and then try to fault yourself for something that, oh, I should have done more, or I don't know if I did enough, and start to blame yourself for things that it's not even yours to carry. And so a lot of these things come from these ghosts of Christmas past, okay, from when you were younger, or, you know, just things that you had spoken over your life, and then you start to believe that it's your fault, and this condemnation comes over you. And I think that one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself when that happens is to forgive yourself. Because it's so easy oftentimes to hear that someone has forgiven you, and you know, someone will tell you, hey, I'm sorry. But to actually accept forgiveness is a whole different thing. So when you do something to yourself that you've hurt yourself for, you need to sit down and say, you know what? I actually let this go. I forgive myself for constantly belittling myself, for always saying that I failed, for always saying that it's my fault. It's not my fault. You actually need to stand up to those things and choose, just like Ebenezer did the next morning, to make a choice that he can actually do something different. You don't have to continue to stay in this cycle of blame. The next day you blame yourself. The next day you blame yourself. No, you actually get the opportunity to reflect on it and to go, okay, this happened, but I'm not going to act like I'm going to take ownership if I need to. But if it had nothing to also do with me, I'm going to start allowing myself to see that and then to release myself.
Live in freedom.
Yes, from carrying something that's not mine.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So I really think that that's some very powerful things that you can do, you know, is to forgive yourself. To accept that you've already been forgiven, you know, because your mom, you can have done something wrong and your mom could say she forgives you. You could have done something wrong and your wife says she forgives you. You did something wrong and your husband says he forgives you. You did something wrong and your kids say they forgive you. But are you going to accept that forgiveness
for yourself?
Or are you going to carry it?
Yeah.
Those are two, that's the option. Those are two different things. To accept it means, you know what? They have forgiven me. Now I accept this forgiveness and I let it go, you know? Yeah. And so continuing on in the next thing of regret, I think there's people that they've gone through certain things, right? You've been on earth for a period of time. And in those periods of time, you've learned a lot. So because you've learned a lot, you look at other people and you see the stuff that they're doing that might be similar to something you did in the past, and you know that when you did that thing, it was the worst thing you did. Yeah. Right. So you're constantly reminded of it. You're like, man, when I was 20 years old and I did, when I got high, man, it was the first time and I never stopped. When I was 20 years old and I got drunk, I never stopped. When I was 20 years old and I started, having sex with random people just for fun, I never stopped. And I wish I would have, or, you know, now I wouldn't have had an STD, or maybe now I wouldn't have had like kids that I don't know who their father is by, or maybe now I wouldn't have, you know, all these different issues where I'm scared constantly of trusting men, or I'm scared of trusting women. I wouldn't have had these issues if I wouldn't have done this or that. So you start blaming yourself, you know, and you're like, man, if I would have just signed that contract with that, you know, that basketball team and gotten that scholarship, I would have been in, man. If I would have just enrolled in that school, if I just did it, I would have been at the top level, you know? And then if I would have taken that job, I would have been in Paris by now.
If I would have said I do to him or to, you know.
Yeah, if I would have said I don't, then I would never be here. Yeah. You know, so you're sitting down and you're going through all these things, man. If I wouldn't have had sex when I was 16, man, I wouldn't have gotten pregnant by this guy that was just gonna leave, you know? And so there's all these things you have in your mind of regrets that you know, go through, and then once you've experienced them and you see someone else that's coming up into their same years that you came up to, you're like, oh, hold up. So you pull out the rescuer flag, right? And so I used to like to be a rescuer too. I'm like, okay. So I see Jessica and I'm like, ooh, oh no. Okay, listen, you do not want to do that because, listen, like what was something? I don't know certain things. I believe one could have been like maybe certain friendships, for instance. Yeah. So I'm protective. I ride. Okay, I'll ride for my sister. Don't
she will.
I ride.
Completely.
I ride. Okay. So listen. So then, if Jessica was going through a hard thing in her friendship, I'm like, listen. You cannot let this person be trying to gain a foothold in your life, trying to roll up, trying to hurt you, trying to do all these things because you're investing, and I see that you're not getting an investment back. And I personally, having experienced that myself, I'm able to look over at her and to know what I went through. So now I'm going, I don't want my baby to go through this. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I'll never forget that the best piece of advice I ever got and the hardest piece of advice was to give advice without following it. Give advice and give it freely without following it.
That's a big one.
It's a big one. It's a deep one.
It's a hard one.
Because it means that you offer advice. I say, hey, okay, so you asked me a question about a friend.
So yeah, it's been a few years and I'm thinking that I don't want to be in the friendship anymore.
Okay. Yeah, but what are you asking me?
So I'm asking you, what do you think I should do? Should I leave this friendship? Should I go my own way and say goodbye to this friend I have?
have this friend been hurting you? Has this friend been hurting your feelings and feeling as though it's not reciprocal for you?
Yes.
Okay. And that's been how long?
That's been about 3 years now.
Okay. Well, I definitely feel as though if that is not working for you anymore and it's not a suitable thing that's serving your life, it's not taking you to a new place, and you're also realizing that it's not reciprocation, it's one-sided, right? Then you need to do what's best for you in that situation to move forward in your life. Because there are friendships that are good for you to have.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think that, if you're looking to get away from these toxic environments, then you should.
Okay.
So see, I give her that advice, but now comes the thing. Say now it's tomorrow and you're on the phone talking to your friend. Go on.
So hi.
This friend, she's talking to the friend that she just told me about, by the way, the day. She's talking to her friend the following day after she just told me she doesn't want to be in the friendship anymore.
So hi, yeah, I would definitely love to go out today around like 12 for lunch for sure. That would be just really fun. And then maybe we can go shopping after as well, make it like a full day. Yeah, that'd be super cool. So I'll see you then. Okay, bye.
So you're thinking, this girl, this a lot of words you have in your mind, right? So in that moment, you have to remember something. That first off, the thinker is below the thought. So the thought comes above your head and you're thinking, idiot, what are you doing? You told me yesterday you didn't want to do this.
Yep.
But because the thinker is below the thought, I'm the thinker, that's the thought. I can then go, do I want to now receive this thought? If I receive this thought, now I'm going to spew it out and tell her, you're an idiot. What are you doing? Da, 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 da. But no, I have decided that, what did I say? When I give advice, I give it freely and I do not follow it.
Yeah.
I do not chase. When I say I do not follow it, it means I don't chase around the answer to see if this person listened to my advice or not. I give it freely. Yeah. So that means she has her personal choice to fly with whatever she decides to do. She's going to end up going to lunch with this person later. That is her choice.
Yeah.
And let me tell you what I've learned, rescuer, is that just because she makes a choice to constantly say she stays in the friendship and she continues on getting hurt and hurt and hurt, that does not mean that she's not going to learn at some point in time. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that if you were to stall her and to say stop and to cut it off, that it would have helped her any learning, because she could have gone into a new relationship and done the same thing again. If you would have somehow infiltrated into the old one and said, let me cut this all off, then she would have continued on not knowing how to properly disengage for herself by herself. So by you stepping in, sometimes you are crippling a person. By you not allowing your advice to just be free, you're first off saying that you're supposed to be in control. You have to relinquish control, because you can't control someone else's life. No. All you are supposed to control is yourself. Yeah. So you letting go of that control and then saying, let her do what she's going to do, because it's what she's supposed to do. It's life. She's supposed to live it. Yeah. And let me pray that she will find the answer and knowledge and direction so that she knows how to relieve these, getting out of these situations on her own, for herself, you know? Yeah. And because the truth is, choice must be made. And oftentimes rescuing someone on the way you think they should be rescued has nothing to do with their own personal growth. Yeah. You know, and you don't know it all. Yeah. You think you know it all. Just because your personal experience was one way doesn't mean theirs will be the same way. Yeah. You know, and there's situations where, you know, there's parents who, they were teen moms, for instance, and then they see their daughter, she ends up getting pregnant too around the same exact age. And they're going, oh my goodness, you're never going to have any money now. You're never going to be able to go to college now. You're not going to do anything with your life. I'm so mad at you. Oh, I'm just so sad for you. Gosh, I just wish you never did this. But listen, that girl goes on and she has that baby. She goes to college. Yeah. She gets an amazing job. Her baby's doing amazing and she's doing it. It goes to show you that you're not always right. Yeah. That you can't write someone else's story. Yes. God is the one who holds stories in his hand and takes things further than you imagined and carries them. Okay. So just because someone does something that you don't think is the best for their life, it doesn't mean that means that their life is over or not going to be incredible.
Won't amount to anything because of that. Yeah.
There's so many different stories that happened that if it didn't happen, you would never be where you are today. There's some people that will say, look, I got pregnant at 16, but if I had not, I would not have been able to have the willpower and to learn how to grow up even quicker, how to learn how to, that even their child propelled them. And showed them.
Motivated them.
To go to school, to do things, to conquer, to go and to know that they could do all things. Because of having that child, it showed them so much aspects that you never even know were possible. And so don't sit down and say just because you did this or that or this doesn't mean anything. There are people that didn't go to college at all. Okay. And they are doing insane, incredible things. I mean, Bill Gates made the choice he made, you know, and this man, he gets asked to speak at colleges. And I love it because when he gets up there and he's talking, he's like, you guys invite me to speak at college when I sat down and made the choice for myself to not go to college. But this is a man who continued to educate himself as well. So the choice becomes, just because you did not go to college doesn't mean you're not educated. And doesn't mean you can't start a business. And doesn't mean that you're not qualified in all other realms and to do other things. Just because you did not accept the scholarship to get into that Ivy League school or to get into that basketball team. It doesn't mean that you're not an amazing athlete, that you can't go on to be an amazing coach, that you can't invest further in a new way. You know, so don't take your story and then just say, well, I didn't do this or this, so I'm just going to amount to nothing, like everyone has said. No, take your story and use it to motivate you to the next level. Because if you look at some of the greatest people, they started from places of not having much. And because of not having much, and then being given things over time. To whom much is given, much is required. They had to learn. They had to start from nothing to start getting things to get to where they are. You know, Conor McGregor and so many different, Tony Robbins. There's so many different people that they'll tell you they were sleeping on the couch. They were homeless. You know, Conor McGregor, his girlfriend was actually the one who was taking care of him. And so you sit down and you see that these stories aren't and you look at these people now and you're like, wait, what? But their story, they decided to take their story and to not make it a regret, to make their story be lifelong, longevity, as you always say.
Longevity. I love that. And to the rescuer as well, when it comes to the advice and letting it go and not letting it be followed, I think it's so important to make sure that, again, you relieve that and say, hey, I told you, but I'm going to just let you do what you're going to do sometimes. I think sometimes calls for it. Sometimes it could be different situations. But what that allows for you is it allows you to let go of frustration. Because I know too, when I would give advice to someone and I'm like, okay, what are you going to do? You know, and I expected them to follow what I said. And if they didn't, like you said, you'd get annoyed. You would be like, are you serious? You know, and all of this frustration, you literally sometimes attach yourself to situations with people where it can be a lot, and you put so much effort and so much attention into it that it really does, it really can come and just cripple you, you know, the inside of you, and cause you to be so frustrated because someone didn't do this, because you put all your time into that person. And so I think it's just important to make sure for certain situations, you know, you say, okay, I told you, and I'm going to let you go.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I love that too, what you're saying, because you can take it a step further and even go into your marriage, right? In your marriage, there's two becoming one. But the thing is that you're also individuals who are going on different pathways as you're individuals, which means that one person can sprint and there's another person that can jog.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if you are constantly telling your spouse, why aren't you sprinting? But they're a jogger and that they're not in that place to sprint like you are. You have to then allow them to be where in the place that they're in and to not try to push them and to say, you should be here. You should be doing this. You should be doing that.
Yeah.
Because everyone learns at a different pace. And if you try to make someone be in a place where they're not, it's never real, first off. But second off, it begins to cripple and hurt them. And you start to get so distracted looking over in their lane when you need to be paying attention to your lane. So offering support and encouragement and telling them they can do it and being there to support them and loving them along the way, but not trying to sit down and condemn them and tell them that they're not at the same speed as you and they're not doing the thing that you would have done in that situation.
Yeah.
That's not the way to operate and to condemn your husband or condemn your wife, you know, because you guys both come from different histories. You both have different stories, you know? And so I think it's very important to offer the other person in your life a lot of love, you know, as well as to make sure that, you're a sounding board of reason, you know, even with your children, because as you see them doing things that you wouldn't have liked, and making sure that you understand that their story still can amount to something. Just because you wanted them to go to college doesn't mean that going to college was going to solve the answer and was going to be the answer for their life and cause this amazing job and all these amazing things that you thought would come from it. It doesn't mean that, you know? And so just being able to allow their story to blossom and not to shut it down is very, very important.
Yeah. Very important.
Yeah. Because the truth is things aren't always going to be the way you expect. Not every choice leads to the outcome you expect. And so expect the unexpected.
And I think that's the beauty in it, honestly, because that's how life happens and works, where sometimes for people who are very structured, who are very, I want it like this is how it's going to go, and they have it all written down, you know, when things kind of shift and change on you, you're like, wait, but it wasn't supposed to be that way, but I thought no, you know?
And when you let go, the moment I let go of it was the moment I got more than I could handle. When you just let go, that is when you realize that's when life is actually happening. Because all these things that you thought were supposed to be in your control, they weren't. They weren't all. You're in control of yourself. You're not in control of how someone else is going to do in their day and what they're going to do in their life and how things are going to operate and flow.
Exactly.
When you let it go, sometimes you'll realize that was the best thing that could have happened.
Yeah.
That was the best thing for me. But because you're so clenched up in trying to control it, you start to distort the things that are actually meant to be in your interest, in your best interest. Because you want to control it. You want to take it into its own hands. And you end up creating Frankenstein. You end up creating Frankenstein instead of actually allowing something to just be beautiful on its own. You know?
Wow.
Oh, man.
I know.
So I want you to have good days. I want you to go and live and allow other people to live and know that other people are going to make other choices that you don't always agree with. And you don't have to. You don't have to agree with them.
You don't.
But it doesn't mean that you're correct either. It doesn't mean that you're always right. And that just because they made that choice, life is over. They can have a reason and they have a purpose, and their purpose is more than you even know. And your purpose is more than you even know. Just because of a choice that you made doesn't mean that you're over.
It doesn't.
It doesn't mean that you're done.
No.
You know, and so give yourself the opportunity to wake up from that reflection, like Nebuchadnezzar. Ebenezer Scrooge, like one Ebenezer Scrooge did. Give yourself the ability to wake up from that dream, that reflection of the ghosts of Christmas past, of all the things that you've ever done, and to decide, today I'm going to do something different. I'm not going to control everyone.
No.
I'm just going to decide that I'm going to control myself, and I'm going to allow myself to live and to truly live and be free.
Yes.
Yeah. And no longer am I going to live in regrets any longer.
No.
Yeah. So go forward.
Yes.
I love you.
We love you.
I see you.
We see you.
Kill it.
Do it. Yes. You got it.
You got it this week. Every week.
Yes.
And we are back.
We are back.
Guess who's back? We're back.
We are.
Tell them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.